Good day, everybody. It is the 24th of August, 2025, and it is about 2 minutes to 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Minsk, Belarus. Yes. All kinds of little news things going on. You know, everything's interesting, I guess, to somebody. But, you know, some of the things I find interesting. You know, and a lot of it's tragedy, of course, like looking at what's going on in Gaza. I'll start off with that, I guess. Well, first I should tell you, if you see, it's a little cooler here right now. I don't know. We get some cold front coming in. It's August. I don't know. Maybe it's early fall. Anyway, at the very beginning of this summer, they said it's not going to be a great summer anyway. Okay, but anyway, let's start off with Gaza. Wow, really bad there. Really bad. And the usual Benjamin Netanyahu's trying to deny it. And as you all know, I'll get into some of the other things I have it written here towards the end of my notes, actually, but I'll just talk about it now. The Houthi, Ansar Allah from Yemen, they are also talking how dangerous it is that Benjamin Netanyahu right now is talking about, this guy, I think he comes for the bench, so I'm going to grab it. How dangerous it is right now for Benjamin Netanyahu to do as he's doing right now. He's declared, like I said already, and I think about 3 videos ago, Eretz Israel, Greater Israel, and of course that's going to entail a lot, taking over a lot of countries, well, a lot of parts of countries and entire countries. Who knows, maybe it'll be Georgia. Some people are saying it will even take Egypt, parts of Egypt. They had once the Sinai, or parts of the Sinai, and I think it was the United States that pressured them to give it back, and it was kind of worthless for them anyway. So, but as you all know, they're retaking Gaza. What was I seeing over there? Yeah, they're retaking Gaza. It's and they've already, it's called Gideon's Chariots 2, and they've already launched that against Gaza City mainly, and that's, what is it, towards the center of the whole Gaza Strip. It's going to cut everything off. They're doing all kinds of nasty things. They're bombing all sorts of places. I think it was yesterday or the day before, one bombing raid, they killed 71 people, and nobody's mentioning it, supposedly, at least not out in the mainstream press, because it's become common day. They do this stuff every single day. There's people dying every day. There's people dying of starvation, and some people are saying, I think in Gaza there is 590,000 people in danger of famine, because they are in very bad straits right now because of Israel blocking all the food going in, and then Israel's making these videos right now, and I think they're sending them to the West. Obviously, they're done in English, by their, I guess, what do you call it, puppets or accolades, and they're saying, it's because the United Nations is not distributing the food. Well, that might be part of it. It might be. I'm not there. I don't know. I can't verify everything. But the United Nations is one of the people complaining about Israel and not allowing the food come in. Then they let the settlers get there and destroy all the food. I don't know. I think a boy died when one of the parachute drops of aid fell and killed him, and it looks like the Chechens from Russia, I guess they're somehow getting food in there and feeding a lot of people. I don't really know how they're doing. I just saw some kind of a tape about that. So, but it's dire there, and like I said, it's not really a war, because these, I think, what was it, for every Hamas they kill at least 10 civilians in the bombing raids, and a lot more civilians are dying, of course, from the famine. So, and what is it, officially, because they have the bodies, they say that it's 60,000 or something. I mean, was it 60,000 people dead? But they said that there is way over 200,000 people missing. Of course, they're buried under the rubble. They didn't get out. They didn't leave the country. Oh, they're just missing. They're misplaced inside of the country. I don't think so. I think they're dead. They're dead in the rubble. It's terrible. Actually, that number is a lot higher. I just said that to be conservative. And some people, they put it at the entire number at somewhere between 300 and 400,000 people getting killed by Israel's bombings. Maybe and related as well. I think probably related, not just the bombings, maybe starvation, you know, and other things, sicknesses. The wind is, why does it always go right into your hair? It's strange, isn't it, huh? I mean, it goes right into your mouth. Okay, anyway, that's enough about Gaza. It's some nasty stuff, and it's, like I said, it's the same thing every day. Bombing, destroying buildings, taking over this part. Yeah. Some people are saying that there's bad things going on now in the West Bank as well. Israel's trying to take over a lot of that. A lot of people are suspecting they're trying to, well, obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu said he pronounced Eretz Israel, so that means they're really going for a lot of things, bombing Lebanon, you name it. And the Houthi, I don't know. I kind of suspect the Houthi don't have really the resources to keep anything going sustainably against Israel. Very brave people and all, but I don't know. I don't think they have really the means to do a heck of a lot. So anyway, okay, but let's go on to other things here. Putin gave a question and answer session on stage. Was it day before yesterday, I guess, and in large part he repeated things that are already well known to those of us, you know, that follow the truth movement. One thing he said is that Moscow does not see countries as unfriendly to Russia. These guys are going to come back here again. They don't see them as unfriendly. Instead, they see unfriendly elites in certain countries. Maybe this guy's looking for something. I don't know if you guys can't see him probably. Well, he's not looking at me. I don't know. Anyway, strange. You don't want to find some gay guy looking at you in a park or something. I mean, at least I don't. So let's see. So anyway, it's actually true. You know, you have the politicians, you have the business peoples, you know, and the whole idea is about getting a hold of Russia's resources and putting Russia down. And I mean, instead of just going over there and making money the fair way and actually doing very well at it like McDonald's and everybody else was, they want it to be far higher profits. They want their margins to be much, much bigger than whatever it was, you know, such as when Russia was selling oil and gas to Europe. You know, they were getting it at a very good price. That is exactly what fueled Germany's tremendous prosperity, was Russian gas and Russian oil more than anything else. And it wasn't good enough. I guess they wanted to get richer faster, so that's what the whole war is about for the most part, and getting, of course, other resources. You know, they wanted that lithium. It's not even huge amounts, but there's quite a bit of lithium in the Donbass, and I've already mentioned that, and that's why they were pissed off when Donald Trump was trying to make some deal. Apparently made a deal. I don't hear about it so much anymore with Zelensky, but a lot of that area has been taken over by Russia, and Russia, of course, is willing to make a deal with Donald Trump. You know, Russia does not have the means to to mine a lot of these things, and even the United States doesn't. I guess China is the big masters of mining these rare earth minerals. They've got it down really, really well. But I'm supposing that if there's a will, there's a way, and you know, it looks like, remember when Donald Trump put the sanctions on all these ships that were building the pipeline, the Nord Stream 2, and of course they stopped, and then Russia had to, of course, take over, and of course they figured out the technology immediately, and they started doing it. And you guys already know about all this Nord Stream stuff. Oh, by the way, also another thing that was this, supposedly they caught the mastermind of the guy and the Ukrainian or something like that, and Russia wants to see like the evidence and something to prove and all that, and they're not going to get it probably, because it's probably all made up. You know, first it was like 4 guys and a woman on a ship or something like that. I don't know, and I told my jokes about the red snapper already, but I don't know. You know, Seymour Hersh I think he still stands by what he said originally, and it was elements in the U.S. government, probably under the direction of Joe Biden, that actually did bomb the pipeline, and a lot of the evidence points that way as well. So it doesn't point to some people going out on some small boat, and they showed the boat, and how are you going to put all the I mean, I think now they're saying 7 people. I said, how did 7 people and all the explosives fit on that boat? Where did, I mean, I don't know how long it took. It's probably at least 2 days. So where were they sleeping? The explosives, things like that. And what, I don't know, what did people at the ports think when is there no witnesses that saw all these explosives on this boat? Sure, you could have 7 people on that boat. I don't know about sleeping them, maybe on the floors and everything else, but explosives as well. Anyway, some of that just doesn't pass the smell test, but anyhow. But let's keep going here. Let's see. One thing Putin said is that Moscow, there comes that friggin' guy again. You guys will see him when he walks by here in a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know what he's looking for. Maybe he wants this, probably wants this bench here. The only bench with a backrest. You see the backrest here. All the other ones are kind of lame here. Okay, let's keep going. So one thing he said is that Moscow, I said that already. I said that about the friendly and unfriendly. He said is another thing, like most of us truth activists always stress, is that in the West, propaganda, works in the West. And of course it works against the Belarusians big time too. As I've already mentioned in other videos, the Belarusians are kind of buying a lot of that stuff that's put out in the West, and Lukashenko is this, and they even live here, and they can see that it's not that way, and they still buy it. I don't know. I've heard, and I've heard intelligent people. This was to me like it's incredible. It's incredible. Very learned people, intelligent people, and they're coming up with this alternate history. I mean, it goes even back. It goes back hundreds of years about that Russia did this, and Russia's the one that attacked. And they probably also believe that who was it in Moldova? They're trying to say that the Nazis were liberating Moldova or Georgia or where. Anyway, if it was Moldova by that time. Yeah, that the Nazis were liberating Moldova from the Soviet Union. I mean, yeah, liberating you from the Nazis, from Hitler. Yeah, we believe that one, right? But like I said, it's incredible. And who was it that said that the more outlandish the story is, the more possibility is that people are going to believe it? So yet, the crazier the story is, the better chance you have that people are going to believe it. I don't know. And maybe it depends on how you tell it and who tells it, I guess. That's how that works out. So anyway, I think it was Putin saying that propaganda. Yeah, he said propaganda there works, of course. They brainwash people and say that we started the war, when obviously it was, as you guys all know that watch this, it was after 2014 the war started up. Ukraine was bombing all the people in the Donbass. They were killing them. They were attacking people. Look, even in Odessa, they burned people alive. In Odessa, I don't even remember, was it 40 or 46 or something? Which are Nazis. I mean, the Nazis burned out the people that had sympathy, or maybe they were Russians or pro-Russian or ethnic Russians or whatever, and they killed them. They burned them alive. And lots of killing going on in a lot of places. And luckily they were able to drive a lot of these people out of the Crimea, because most of the Crimea, that's why it was so easy back in those days anyway, because most all of the Crimea, except for maybe single digits or something, a few people wanted to be part of Ukraine, but they never liked Ukraine. It's pretty much like the Donbass, so that was pretty easy for Russia, because these people never, ever since the time they were established, ever wanted to be a part of Ukraine. In 1917 or whatever it was for the Donbass, and when they Vladimir Lenin, the Bolsheviks, they gave that to the area of Russia called Ukraine, and as you also know, is a neighbor of mine again. And then there's also the the Crimea was Khrushchev in 1954 gifted it to Ukraine. Some people say it was they were playing poker, and then he, decided right there, told some guys, yeah, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and, give the Crimea to Ukraine. And back in those days, a lot of people didn't care anyway. I've heard people in the Soviet, that were living in the Soviet Union at that time, people around here, and they said because it was all the Soviet Union, and it was all one country to a large extent anyway, just different regions. So anyway, of those people, Russian, when you talk about the Belarusians, the Russians, and the Ukrainians, it's a little bit different maybe when you go to Eastern Europe, Ukrainians and things, which were also Slavic peoples, but, it was considered a little bit different. So Czechs and Slovaks and all that sort of thing. Okay, anyway, that's a completely different story. And anyway, Putin said, brainwash the people that Russia started it. He said they forget that they themselves started the war in 2014 when they began using tanks and aircraft against the civilian population of Donbass. And of course, they overthrew the government. They overthrew the democratically elected government of the Ukraine. Oh, but let's forget about that. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. What the real truth is, no, Russia's the aggressor. It wasn't us. But I think he's maybe just talking about the military side of it. And bombing, and they destroyed the airport in Donbass almost right away. Oh, remember Russell Bentley when he left from Texas, and he was broadcasting on YouTube and talking about it when he was fighting for the Donbass against the U-Krauts. They call them the U-Krauts. That's what the Americans called the Germans the Krauts. And so I guess maybe English-speaking people fighting for the freedom and the liberation of the Donbass. We're calling the West Ukrainians the U-Krauts. Okay, let's see. Okay, Putin also said he and Trump discussed joint investment possibilities in the Arctic. Hey, a lot of us said that after that meeting in Alaska, that they weren't going to be talking exclusively about Ukraine. Obviously not. Okay, so now let's get to some more things here. There's a German source, and I saw this today. I don't know if that was put out yesterday. Somebody sent this to me. It was in German, and it was saying, and this is really shocking if it's true. I hadn't seen it in even the Russian news, but it says that Viktor Orban has said that he wants to now join the BRICS, and probably, well, he's hinted he wants out of the EU. And but I'll tell you what, maybe the implications are so bad that he didn't come and say that officially. And I tell you what, if he ever gets that far, Robert Fico of Slovakia, he might go along with that as well. And Serbia, which is on the southern part of Hungary, you can have all these three countries which all share they all have common borders, I guess, with each other. And but Serbia, they're under heavy attack from the EU. They're really trying to overthrow Serbia big time. And using all sorts of mechanisms, such as, like what Putin just said, the brainwashing thing, to try to brainwash the people. I tell you, and they got a lot of money. They got billions and billions. And if Serbia is trying to take care of their people, they have to put that money into things that government normally puts money into. Otherwise, it does really make them look bad. If they take it from someplace and start putting it in things like propaganda, like from the EU. And the EU, they don't really care if they're stealing the money from all the people and putting it to overthrow governments all over and give it to Ukraine and all that sort of a thing. They're borrowing money. Hey, it's fine. They just keep borrowing, printing more money. Wow. Don't worry, kick that can down the road. It'll get to the end of the road one day, but all of us will be gone by that time, the leaders are probably thinking. Yeah, okay. So anyway, looks like the EU and Zelensky, get out of here, fly, are nowhere near allowing a lasting peace between Russia and Ukraine. They were kind of playing around and being cordial, maybe what you would call diplomatic out there when they were in Washington, D.C., but then they get back and Merz go right back to the same old stuff. I think he still wants a ceasefire, and he still wants to send weapons. They still want to build up a huge military, and they want to protect themselves from an attack by Russia. See if they can do everything possible to provoke Russia. And one of those provocations is, and a lot of people are still talking about that, is Merz is not really letting go of the idea of using his Taurus missiles, sending them to Ukraine and letting Ukraine use them against Russia. And Russia has warned, if you're going to be doing that, then I think there's even been questions about using tactical nuclear weapons against Germany if they give these Taurus missiles to Ukraine. There's even been talk about that. I don't know if that will ever happen. I'll tell you what, probably not right away if they would do that, I think, but they will hit some parts of Germany. So if you ever hear about this, Taurus missiles being used, the German missiles being used against targets inside of Russia, then you can start to worry that maybe there is going to be some Russian Orishnik missiles hitting targets in Germany. So I'm sure a lot of other people have been talking about that already. I don't really try to exaggerate and elucidate on a lot of these kind of things that, I'm not out to lie and make things sound so spectacular so I can get more votes or get more views on YouTube. Trying to, tell you all the boring truth, even though it's not boring at all anyway. Okay, but the EU and Zelensky, they're talking about making, they want a lasting peace between, but then they're talking about Article 5 protections. Russia says no NATO, and they've said that from the very beginning, before the special military operation started. No NATO, we don't want, obviously, you see how NATO was pushed so close to Russia and taken over all those countries after Bill Clinton said not 1 inch and all that sort of thing. Lie after lie after lie after lie. By the way, Kaya Kalla says, we can't trust Russia. Oh, they've, look at what they've lied to us or did this or whatever. And it's obviously the other way around. It's the EU and the West that lie to Russia every time, over and over and over again, just like the Minsk Accords. I mean, so it's amazing how they try to brainwash people. They never go into any specifics. They just tell you how it is without telling you the evidence of why it is that way, because they don't have any evidence as to why it is that way, because it isn't even true. Boy, anyway, you guys know that. And I'm thinking maybe if I have some new subscribers or viewers, hopefully you guys will be smart enough as well. Some guy wrote something about me or something. I left it up. You guys can see it, I think, in one of the last 2 or 3 videos. It's talking about that I'm wanting more subscribers. Sure, everybody wants more subscribers. I'm not going to. I can get more subscribers. I can start doing some things, but I'd rather just get up here and tell the truth. And I'm doing this mostly, as I've told everybody, for my own therapy as well, because I get pissed off, and to keep up on the news. It kind of reinforces it inside of me, and I get when I repeat this stuff, then it helps me maybe to remember these things, and that I can piece things together a lot better and figure out trends and what's really going on in the world. And I think a lot of you are also like that. But some guy is talking about me saying bad things about the U.S. And I don't have that much bad to say about Belarus and Russia, as far as the subjects I'm talking about anyway. There is corruption. I'll tell you what, there's more. I can't say that either. I was going to say, from what I remember about the United States back from like 30 years ago, I think there's more corruption. People going around robbing. I'm not talking about violent crime. I'm talking about people doing schemes and robbing people and stuff. There was more of that in Russia. And of course, there still is that stuff. It's a huge country. But things are probably much worse in the United States in every aspect. Definitely in violent crime in the United States. It's always been far worse. Smaller country, but far more crime. So even with the size of Russia, there's less people, I guess I have to say, per square kilometer or whatever. But, more violence in the United States, and drugs, and anyway. I remember even back in my day, back in the 1980s, believe it or not, early 1980s, we had girls, let me say this different. I think one girl got raped and from other schools that weren't in my school, or women and stuff, going through woods or whatever, rapes around those areas, but you don't ever hear about that ever in Belarus. So even back when the United States was less violent, it's still less violent over here in Belarus. Much different. Okay. But anyway, that's a different tangent. So Article 5 protection, right. In other words, NATO. Article 5 protection for Ukraine from these Western European countries. In other words, it's already in NATO. That would be that Ukraine is in NATO, because they could think about how stupid it is. You're not in NATO, but we're going to give you a whole bunch of weapons, and we're going to give you Article 5 protection, but you're not in NATO, even though you enjoy everything that NATO offers. Gosh. Maybe they think Russia is really stupid. I don't know. I think Donald Trump doesn't think that Russia is that stupid. So, yes, okay, now what else? Russia says Putin will not meet. I'm talking, when I say Russia, I mean like Lavrov and other people in the Russian government. I'm not talking about Putin himself, but Russia says, but probably Putin himself, says that Russia says Putin won't meet with Zelensky until a true peace agenda is agreed upon. So in other words, they're not going to go there and start arguing with each other. Putin has better things to do, I think, than to go there and just start, and Zelensky, if it's on film, he's going to, use his media, what he thinks he's got media charm, and Putin doesn't have time to go sit there and go over the entire true history of this conflict. So Zelensky is going to say, you attacked us, when that's not even true. So it would be back and forth and back and forth. So is everybody going to be watching this or put on the news of a back and forth argument, just back and forth? What sense is that? So obviously, it's probably what Putin is hoping for is that they can sign something, but it has to be agreed upon before going in. It's not like negotiators. If you understand what I'm getting at, I don't know if some people do and some people don't. These leaders of Europe, they act like they're completely stupid. And no, you got to have those two come together. No, you don't. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So do these leaders not have anything better to do than maybe meet there for weeks and weeks and be talking like this about things that have never been hashed out by their own negotiators, ahead of time? Well, what's this lady? Now she walked past here and now she's coming back too. I don't know, I guess I'm a popular guy today. People want to keep walking past me or something. So, what else? Zelensky made a video for Ukrainian Independence Day. Was that today? I didn't see it until it didn't come out until like late morning. So I don't know if he did it today or he made this thing yesterday, and for today is today Ukrainian Independence Day. I don't really give a crap. But he's essentially saying there that in so many words, there will never be peace with Russia, because what has happened here now with this Russia having this territory, that he's never ever, well, as long as he's there, he is not going to allow it, and they're gonna, and Ukraine, he's saying Ukraine is gonna continue trying to get all of those, including Crimea. He wants to get all of it back again, when actually the truth of the matter is Russia just got it back again, and they haven't even gotten all of it back yet. And then some people are coming out and saying, well, in these peace negotiations, Ukraine has to give up stuff, but Russia doesn't have to give up anything. Oh, really? Oh, really? Well, guess what? Ukraine used to belong to Russia. So if Russia signs some sort of a deal with Ukraine, I don't know who in Ukraine, because Zelensky's an illegitimate leader because his mandate has run out. So anyway, if they sign some sort of a deal, then it will, in truth, be a new country. And if you want to call it Ukraine, you can. You can or you can't. But whatever you want to call it. But Ukraine, I tell you what, why do they call it Ukraine still? When Ukraine in Russian means on the edge of Russia. Why do you want your country to be called on the edge of Russia when you hate Russia? That's their deal. Okay, what else here? So anyway, Zelensky's wearing some kind of a, Zelensky, he's got his fashion designers, as you see, his suit. To be honest with you, this suit, he looked like a little boy to me. He looked like a little boy from the 1960s with his black suit when he went to see Trump in the White House. Trump says, "Oh, it looks good." I think he's just trying to please Zelensky and to say, "Well, at least you didn't wear your green T-shirt or your green sweatshirt or something like that." So anyway, there's the woman, if you guys can see her in there. She's walking by here a couple of times. Maybe she's waiting for me to stop and then say something in English. I don't have any. People do that sometimes to me here. I mean, in Belarus. So anyway, he wants to take it back. There will be no peace until they get all of that territories. And he said, no compromise. He said, we will never compromise. Oh, that sounds pretty scary to me. But I'll tell you what, do you think he's going to live forever? I don't know. So, along with that, I guess, Russian defense department, they could have killed Zelensky. Of course, they could have many, many times, but there was one recently, and it was with an Orishnik. They could have blown him away. And this is something that was put out by Lukashenko just a couple days ago. And Putin had the chance, but Putin stopped it. He said no, under no circumstances. So he did not want the removal of Zelensky. They would have got rid of him. Probably, or possibly. It's not that they don't want to get rid of Zelensky, because Zelensky's just I don't know, I don't want to say that word. But anyway, it's probably because there'll be other people around Zelensky and they'll be taken out too, and maybe they're innocent, maybe they're, I'm not going to say ass kissers, but they're people maybe that are made to be ass kissers or something. So let's see. And we thought that the United States was stopping the flow of weapons to Ukraine. And I guess I saw this at the timetable. I think in about 6 weeks, Ukraine will get from the United States 3,350 extended range missiles that have a, let's see, the range of that is to 450 kilometers. And so Trump is sending them over. Yes, well, so I guess it's 450 kilometers. Anyway, it's in miles. It's just under 300 miles, I guess. So that's quite a distance. And the stipulations are that they cannot, they can't be used unless the Pentagon allows. And of course, it's probably not that. They're probably guided by the United States satellites and things, as are all of these missiles, like the Storm Shadows, the French and the British Storm Shadows. They're guided by United States satellites and intelligence. And of course, it looks like a lot of that stuff, what we were made to believe, and I think I've heard people, maybe it was Rubio, and maybe some others are saying, oh yeah, the United States is stopped sending these weapons and blah, 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 but apparently they haven't. So, and there's going to be a little bit more I'll mention about that in a minute here. Some Patriot systems, so when I get to it. Yes, so, and if you thought peace was possible, Lavrov pointed out that Zelensky rejected every single thing that Trump was telling him and requested of him, and was telling him everything that was talked about, supposedly talked about in Washington, D.C. was rejected by Zelensky. And like I said already, and also rejected by the European Union. So it was like a waste of time of them going over there. They could have friggin' sent some emails. They could have talked on Skype or some crap. But no, it's got to cost millions and millions of dollars for all of these big shots to go over there. The snowman and the seven dwarfs, or whatever they called it, with maybe their cocaine and their wild, weird bisexual or homosexual sex and stuff like that. Maybe that's the reason why they went over there. Do some shopping trips and all that. Ursula Vander Pirate, all this. So, yes. Yeah, along with that, I think Lavrov was also saying, which is very strange, that Ukraine is the only country in the world where a language is banned. They put a ban on the Russian language in Ukraine. And that was even before the special military operation. And that was part of a reason why they had a special military operation, is because they put a ban. Their hatred of the Russians, it's this Banderitism. It's incredible how these people consider, it's like a stew, you know, with the heat on, and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter until it's boiling, and then it's boiling over. You know, this hatred that they have. And I think a lot of them, you know, if you even ask them, well, why do they hate the Russians? I think they can't even come up with anything justifiable. You know, it'll be a whole bunch of talking points that was fed into them ever since they were small children in kindergarten. You know, it's absolutely incredible. Like the fake history, I was just mentioning the fake, they come up with this fake history. Yeah. And I tell you what, and they were using a lot of that, like I just also told you, they do that with Belarusians too. So there's a significant amount of Belarusians too that probably believe in this fake history. It's not even the Americans believe in this history. I mean, you go back in the depending on what part of history you're talking about, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, even in America had the real history. And now that they come up with a fake history, it's like, oh, Ukraine used to have Krasnodar and all these, oh my God. Anyway. There's ways that you can twist things around to make it seem, you know, like some of this stuff is possible. Just, I don't know how they are twisting it, saying that the Ukrainians built the pyramids of Egypt. I don't know how they were able to swing that one, or that ancient Ukrainians, with their bare hands, they dug out the Black Sea. Very strange when the Ukraine wasn't even anywhere close to the Black Sea. There wasn't even a Ukraine back in those days. But anyway, or unless they're thinking that the Russians now are actually Ukrainians. I don't know what to think with these people. They're in some completely different world. You know, it's like, oh yeah, well then they got to twist this, and then you got to twist that fact over there to make it fit to this fact. I mean, it's incredible. Gosh, I don't know how people are. I'm sorry. I don't want to insult Ukrainian people, but you know, it's because they've been fed a lot of crap their whole life, and they've been told it, and then, you know, it's printed in a textbook and it looks like really official, so that must be the truth. George Washington threw $1 across the Delaware River. I cannot tell a lie, I chopped down the cherry tree. Whatever other things, you know, all countries come up with anyway. So I'm sure Belarus has some too, so, but I'm not, you know, but the Ukrainians, they just go really far, unfortunately. Okay, so Lavrov and others mention that Zelensky, he mentions the Ukraine Constitution all the time, but he doesn't talk about the fact that he's in violation of the Constitution himself. You know, there was no elections, and the Ukrainian Constitution says they cannot, that the Russian-speaking population of Ukraine has guaranteed rights. So what happened to that part of the Constitution? Wow. And I think did I say Lavrov said Russia will not agree to end. Oh no, I didn't say that. They will not agree to end the war unless there is respect for the security of Russia, which is one major reason, which is, as a matter of fact, practically the only reason why the war is going in the first place, because NATO wanted to take Ukraine, and Russia kept saying no, and you know, security concerns for Russia. But another reason is they will not agree to a ending of the war unless the rights of the Russians in Ukraine are respected. So there are some very difficult parts, because obviously they had no intention of doing that. And you know, in order, like I was, a lot of people were saying, like Scott Ritter and everybody says, you know, that Russia will not, you know, really cease until they you know, get control of Odessa, because those are Russian people in Odessa and in Kharkiv. Matter of fact, even in Kiev, somehow they don't do too much to them in Kiev, maybe because the city is too big. But that's one reason, you know, Russia will say we will not take Odessa, we will not try to go there if you respect the rights of the Russian people that live in Odessa and those places. So I guess they would have to do that. But guess what? Even if they agree to it, they're not going to abide by it. What do they, you know, like the ceasefires, they never abide by it. They never abided by them. Europe doesn't even abide by these things. Who is going to enforce that? Is Russia going to enforce that? So Russia would have to start the war again, and then of course they would be the aggressors. Maybe that's the whole plan, because they're going to start killing Russian peoples in Odessa. Okay, yeah. It has been confirmed in a leak, an undeniable factual leak in Ukraine, that they have lost over 1.7 million soldiers already. I think these are those that are so badly wounded and dead that they cannot play a role at all whatsoever in this war. But those that are dead, and even those that are out of the war, I guess they have some sort of finances coming to them as far as the agreement is concerned. And what it is because it's if it's 1.7 million, and of course I think that number might be those, as a matter of fact, it might be those that are dead and missing. 1.7 million. I don't know if that, and I don't think that includes those that have left the country. But anyhow, that would mean that Ukraine owes 630 billion US dollars. Wow, wow, wow. And guess what? Average 2,000 people die every single day on the Ukraine side against Russia. So that number just keeps going up and up and up. Wow. And they won't ever be able to repay that. So it makes you really wonder, well, what is the whole scheme? What's the plan? What's the plan? They're not going to pay that money. Norway, talk about money. Norway has recently committed to just under 700 million US dollars in Patriot systems for Ukraine. And most of them have already left Germany. So I don't know if these were in Norway and they shipped them to Germany, and then Germany is now sending them on to Ukraine. In any case, Germany has they're in the mail, I guess, as they say. Wow, nearly $700 million worth, probably in a lot of ammunition, Patriot systems, and Russia pretty much has already got that number, so I don't know if they're going to be that effective against Russia anyway. Yes, and I already talked about this slaughter already, I think, in Gaza. And Benjamin Netanyahu gave some talk, I guess, on television, and matter of fact, it was in English, because I saw that. He calls it a 7-front war. So in other words, who would have even a 2-front war? Who would want that? And they say that's mostly what did Hitler in. Having a 2-front war, Russia on one side, and the Allies on the other side. And of course, Russia is the one that mostly defeated. And I talked about that, and so many other people. It was, not Russia, it was the Soviet Union. As a matter of fact, according to Germany, and according to President Roosevelt, and according to Winston Churchill, the Soviet Union defeated Adolf Hitler. But Donald Trump, I think he must have had a time machine. He went back and he said it was the Americans that did it. So, and some people are, also maybe put that in, oh, America joined the war. And I think it was some help in World War I. But most of the reason for Germany's loss or defeat, the military was not defeated. So it wasn't to the United States' credit. It was because of an economic problem back home, and you can look it up, Ludendorff and all of those problems. And that's why the military in Germany calls it the stab in the back. I already mentioned that before in World War I, because they were on French soil, and they had not lost. They had not lost to the Britain, France, United States, and Australia, if some soldiers were there too. They had not lost. So why did they give up? It's because they didn't have the wherewithal. Then they were having a revolution back home in Germany. And I guess, I don't know if the truth is what you want to hear, that's the truth right there. That's the major reason for the end of World War I, and not whatever anybody else says. I'm sorry, but I got that from some of the most prestigious professors of German history of that time. I sat in the classes when they said that, and I've seen it in books. I don't know if they've changed history right now to make different facts or not. I don't know. Anyway, so Ansar Allah, the Houthi, they're warning the world about this declaration that Israel just came out. The leader of Ansar Allah came out, not Sari, who always normally, the guy that yells really loud, not him, but it was the leader of Ansar Allah came out and said that it is very dangerous that they declared this Eretz Israel, and of course they did it about the same time as they got Gideon's chariot too to take Gaza. So Trump, I'll go to Trump now. His tariffs, have now driven some of the BRICS countries. I'll tell you what, and this is just a prelude, and I'll go into a little bit more about this in a minute here, but this China is now going to buy their soy from Brazil. A huge portion of their soy was bought from the United States, and it was a huge amount of money for the United States. But now they have 0 orders in for the last part and 2026. There's no orders for soy from China, from the United States, but to get it from the United States, if you understand what I'm getting at. Wow. And farmers are furious in the United States. I think some are furious at Donald Trump. They're furious about the conditions and what's going on. Maybe you shouldn't have done these tariffs, I guess, because tariffs can backfire and people will adapt to them, and it might just come right back in your face, old Donnie boy. And it is coming back in his face, Maybe he thought, oh, well, I'll solve that problem when I get there, when I create a little problem, No, Donald Trump, he's pretty sharp. I'm not going to deny that, but I don't know. I don't think things are going the way he says they are. So now we have what they call RIC, R-I-C, which is Russia, India, and China, and they're going really, really close together now. And there's big friendship. I think I mentioned this already. Friendship happening between India and China, and normally there wasn't. There was lots of disputes, and they were kind of stronger rivalries. Now they're really working together. They're meeting. Their foreign ministers are meeting together. Oh boy! And as what I just now told you about Brazil and China, so the BRICS are really starting to rally. The BRICS are rallying. So old Donnie boy, and Donald boy, he said he wanted to destroy the BRICS, and he was laughing at them and said, I'm destroying them. They're afraid to meet anymore and all that. Well, I don't know, Donnie. I think they're all saying basically, stick it up your backside, Donald Trump. So I don't know. Not a very good thing that he should have done. So Donald Trump's nightmare may be just coming. It was just like a nightmare when they were looking at Germany and Russia working together, and then they created a bigger nightmare, and now you got Russia and China working together. So I guess that's how things work out. So it looks like these countries are going to be really coming close together, and if that's true with Orban wanting to get into BRICS, a lot of people want to get into BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, things like that. A lot of these countries are really kind of, makes you really wonder, well, what is going to be the solution? A military? They're going to start bombing all these, I don't know. There used to be something called the non-aligned movement, and I don't know. Are they going to start going against these countries in military means, or who knows what? Okay. Also, but some good news for Donald Trump. Ghislaine Maxwell, she's obviously been coached. She's obviously been coached. Since they're interviewing her, the FBI and all that. It's actually kind of funny, because things that everybody knew for many, 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 many years, and now it's all being, that doesn't exist anymore. It never existed. Gosh. Ghislaine Maxwell, what did she say? One thing she said was I guess I got to put this the right way. Clinton absolutely never went to Epstein's Island. She didn't say it in that way, but she uses like the word absolutely never, that he was never there, that he never made any trips there. And it's a well-known fact by the log records. They have already been exposed. They've already been exposed. I think 7 trips. Bill Clinton went to that island on the Lolita Express, and she is saying, so it makes you wonder how viable is she as a witness when she says something that they know is absolutely false. You know, they know Clinton has been there 7 times. Everybody knows that. And she says he's never been there. Or maybe they're going to, get rid of that. Don't say she said that. Get rid of that information. Strike it from the records. She never said that. Oh. And there's other things that she's said too that are like everybody's wondering, what the heck is, this is not very true. Oh yeah, one of them was, no ties to the Mossad. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No wonder Hillary Clinton is now happy. You know, it's weird because that's what's going on right now. You know, there's kind of a reconciliation between the Clinton, which we were thinking was the antagonist of the Trump side, which it was in one election, as you all remember, the 2016 election. But now they're like, wow, you know, I like Trump now, Hillary is saying. So, yeah, because he's giving us a pass. And all of our corruption, he's just going to basically wipe it out. All of the corrupt crap that we did. And I guess lock her up is not going to happen. So, wow. Yes, Trump is sending more ships and Marines to sit off the coast of Venezuela. 4,000 Marines, apparently. At least that's what it says. You never know, because a lot of this stuff is really fake. It might be a little bit less, and it might be a lot more. You don't really know. A lot of this stuff, they put this stuff out, and they just like basically pull it out of a hat, and then they just give you some numbers because they want to say something. Oh, that sounds like a good round number. Let's just say 4,000. And because, you know, when you're in the military, as you know, like I was, and a lot of the stuff that, you know, a lot of stuff they put out, and it's completely fake. It's not true at all. Like, we withdrew all of our nuclear weapons out of this place in Germany. And then you're sitting there looking at, well, what is this I'm looking at right here, right now? These are nuclear bombs, buddy. So let's go some more here. What else? 4,000, but Maduro's trying to recruit, 4 million militia. And to get ready for, but I tell you what, the United States, as you all know how they work, they just bomb the crap out of everything. They don't send the troops in. They're not going to send troops in. So what are all these troops going to do? You know, they might send some troops in. They don't need 4 million. I'll tell you what Maduro needs, he needs to get maybe, if he had 200,000, that would be 4 million? Come on now. If you get 200,000, to resort to guerrilla warfare in the jungles and the areas of Venezuela against the Americans, and the Americans are not going to really want to venture in there. This is not going to be like a big, huge Vietnam thing, even though Donald Trump really, really, really badly wants Venezuela. I mean, as he did in his first term, and he really badly wants it. He really, because they got huge resources, not just the oil and the gas. They've got gold, and they probably have lithium. They got everything there, basically. And Donald Trump, he wants to get a hold of that stuff big time. Big time. I mean, that's how he thinks, as you all know. Anyway, I have talked about that in the last video, and it's probably a lot better off if they make some kind of a arrangement, maybe through Putin. Maybe Putin can act like the Donald Trump between Ukraine and Russia. Putin can be the Putin. Putin can be the Putin between Venezuela and the United States. So we'll find out, I guess. So he's also sent what I guess they call it a fast attack submarine, the USS Helena. It's nuclear powered silent service. It's not that they're going to launch nuclear weapons, but I guess it's probably got a lot of torpedoes. I don't even know why they need that. Venezuela does not have some big, really, really formidable military, so it's not like they're going to need something like that anyway. I think what they're having with all these destroyers, they have an aircraft carrier, lots of bombers and things like that. As a matter of fact, what is it? 70 military bases that the United States has down there. And I tell you what, I was in a country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the United States has a Coast Guard. A Coast Guard way in the heck down there. It's closer to Venezuela than it is to the United States. It's far from the United States. and but that is normally used. They were launching drones, and it was also against Venezuela at that time. So it was like for surveillance drones to go seeing, you know, what things are going on in Colombia, Venezuela, and all that sort of a deal. And yeah, but they do have a drug trade. And I mean, I'm not saying Maduro's a great big boss. There's a big, I can't remember even the name of this, some drug cartel. There is a drug cartel down there, and in Venezuela, and they had fishermen back in those days when I was in that country. We had fishermen from Venezuela. They came up and they had no fish. Wow, fishermen without fish, but they had a white powder with them. I mean, it's not like the whole boat is packed, nothing like that. But anyway, they had who knows, maybe 50 pounds of it. I have not a huge amount, not really, you know. It might even been much less. It was a very small amount, actually. And but anyway, they also dealt in like diesel fuel and things. It's kind of illegal, you know, things they were using their boats not for fishing but for you know, fuel to, you know, to avoid taxes, you know, for some certain boats like tourist boats. So they would bring fuel in, and they would fuel up like yachts and things like that, so that the people like from the United States and Europe, they would not have to pay the duties on the fuel and things that country was selling. And like I said, the cocaine thing is one thing, but anyway, the customs people from the country that I was in, they had went to look in these fishing boats, and somebody threw a bag of white powder over the side. And I guess the official word is from the Prime Minister of the country of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I guess, said it was laundry soap. It was a white baggie. I mean, it was a baggie filled of white powder, and the white powder, and they rushed and threw it overboard. It was laundry soap. Yeah. The divers went down and get it, and they found out it was laundry soap. Yeah, I believe that. And but anyway, those were the days of Hugo Chavez. It was not Maduro. So that's not a relevant question anymore. So anyway, that was one thing. And also Bill Gates, he's really starting to push now. I don't know if he's still doing the vaccines sort of a deal, you know, but they had something playing with him, and he's really into his synthetic fuels is one thing, and his laboratory meat. What's on the slab? Something like Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know. Can't remember. See what's on the slab, you know. But anyway, so he's pushing his laboratory meat that he probably won't eat. You know, Bill Gates is actually pretty addicted to beef. He loves beef. I don't know. Maybe he's going to come up with something he likes more than beef. I have no idea, but like I've mentioned in other videos, my cousin met with him sometimes in the mornings. My cousin lived across the street from Microsoft, and Bill Gates had a Burger King built, you know, right next door to the condominium complex where my cousin lived, and he used to go, you know, to Burger King in the morning sometimes for breakfast. And Bill Gates, he would in the morning. You know, I think back then, you know, I don't know if you don't serve hamburgers in the morning, but Bill Gates would get a hamburger, of course. But anyway, he sat with Bill Gates sometimes in the mornings there. You know, he didn't like him. He said it was a real asshole. But anyhow, that's Bill Gates. I don't know. Everybody has an opinion. Like that little hole, wait a minute, that's why you said that. Because there's a little hole that everybody has below their back. Everybody has one of those, and everybody has an opinion. Well, anyway, Bill Gates, he said, was an asshole. But let's see. Anyway, this is all about his push for, you know, the synthetic fuel, especially, or anyway, for his funding of green tax credit funding. And a lot of this is to get this money from the government. In other words, you know, Bill Gates, this multi-billionaire, he doesn't pay for that. It's you do. You, the American taxpayer, are going to pay this money to keep developing and producing this stuff, and Bill Gates gets the profits from it. What do you think about that? Isn't that great? Anyway, that's about all I have for today, people. And thanks for joining me. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.